what you are supposed to understand. This is what homeostasis is. So if you get to encounter some questions in an exam, they tell you to say, what is homeostasis? Homeostasis is defined as the maintenance of a constant internal environment of the body. So this one gets to involve certain stages, or it involves, so I'll say it involves the following. It does what? It involves the following. It involves the following. One, we are going to look at something that we get to call. So one, we look at the regulation of the body temperature. So when we talk about the regulation of the body temperature, so regulation of the what? Regulation of body temperature. Regulation of body what? Body temperature. What do we call this? What do we call the regulation of body temperature? The regulation of body temperature is referred to as thermoregulation. So this part, it is called what? Thermoregulation. If I tell you to say what is thermoregulation, you need to tell me that, okay, thermoregulation, this is the regulation of the body temperature. So I'm going to explain to you these things very well and nicely so that you try to get the concept. There is also what we call the regulation of the amount of water in the body. So I will say there is also another thing that we get to call the what? The regulation. So I will say the regulation of what? The regulation of the amount. So there is also what we get to call the regulation of the amount of what? The amount of water in the body fluid. In the what? In the body fluids. So in the body fluids, what do we call this? So the regulation of the amount of water in the body fluids. This is what we get to call osmoregulation. It is called what? Osmoregulation. This is the name that is given to it. I guess you are getting the point and you are able to see everything that I'm explaining here. So the regulation of the amount of water levels in the body fluids is what we get to call osmoregulation, from the word osmosis. Thermo from the word thermometer, heat. So osmoregulation, osmosis, coming from that word. But since we are learning on how this gets to be regulated, that is the reason why we are including this word that is called regulation. So we say osmoregulation. Then there is also what we get to call the regulation. So there is also what we get to call the what? The regulation of blood sugars. The regulation of blood what? Blood sugars and what? And removal. We say the regulation of blood sugars and the removal of what? Of toxic. I will say, and the removal of what? Toxic metabolic. So toxic what? Toxic metabolic waste. This is what we looked at, and I guess you know what it means. This is what we get to call as what? What is our previous topic? Our previous topic was what? Excretion. So this is the name that is given to it. I guess this is something that is good. This is something that we are supposed to know. So these terms are not new. I know these are terms that we've looked at, and I guess you know what I mean. Like I've told you, I just came here to introduce this particular topic. So I will explain it in details. So meaning that the next thing that we are going to look at under homeostasis, we need to know how thermoregulation happens, how osmoregulation happens, and how excretion gets to happen now in details. But the good part is that we looked at some of these things. So this is not something that we are going to say, oh, this topic is difficult, I guess what and what. No, these are terms that we've looked at, and these are terms that are I would say similar, or I would say these are words that we can even remember even in an exam. So the first thing we are going to start with, it is thermoregulation. So this is what we are going to start with. It is called what? Thermoregulation. We look at thermoregulation now in details. What are some of the major things that you are supposed to understand under thermoregulation? Like I've told you to say this is defined as, so you say this is the what? This is the maintenance. This is what we are saying. This is the what? This is the maintenance of a constant. It is the maintenance of the what? Constant body temperature. Constant what? Constant body temperature. This is what you are supposed to get. So the maintenance of body temperature is what we get to call thermoregulation. And I want you to understand that the temperature of a human body must be kept around 37 degrees Celsius. So you have to understand that the body of a what? Of a human being. So the body of a human being must be kept. You need to understand that it must be what? It must be kept around what? Around this temperature, which is 37 degrees Celsius. So it must be kept around this temperature. Why is it that the body of a human being must be kept around 37 degrees Celsius? It is because this is the what? This is what we get to call the optimum temperature for enzyme activity. So because it is called what? You write in full. You say because. I'm writing this because I don't have much space here. So you say because it is what? You say because it is, because that is what? That is optimum temperature. So this is optimum what? Optimum temperature. We say that is optimum what? Optimum temperature for each enzyme. For each what? For each enzyme. We know what an enzyme is, isn't it? What is an enzyme? If a question was to come, what is an enzyme? You know that, okay, an enzyme is a biological catalyst. And you know that whenever we are talking about a catalyst, this is something that will speed up or it will slow down a chemical reaction. So it is going to speed up a chemical reaction or reduces a what? A chemical reaction. So if the temperature goes below 37 degrees Celsius, it means that the enzyme have become less active. And if the temperature goes beyond, it means that the enzymes have become denatured. I don't know if you've gotten the point. So if the temperature, so this is temperature. So if temperature